Attention crew, this is your captain speaking. We are beginning preparations for hyperdrive to ensure the speedy delivery of our rare and exotic goods. We'll have you back to your families in no time.
Captain, an unknown life form is beamed onto the ship.
Well, ask it what it wants. Hey, what's it doing? Ah, shit. Oh,
Captain, the ship is now overrun with monsters, and also fires.
Oh, shit. All our stuff. Attention crew, please abandon ship. Welcome to Random Game Reviews. I put every game in the PlayStation Store into a spreadsheet and let a random number generator tell me what games to play and review. But for this episode, I let my supporters on Patreon suggest games, and randomly drew from the list of suggestions, which is why I had to play Risk of Rain. Risk of Rain is the simplest game I've gotten to review in a long time, which is a nice change of pace for me. The story is simple. Some space douche junked up your ship and you crash land on a strange alien planet and have to blast aliens apart all the way back to the ship and then fight the space douche. The art is simple with its 8-bit stylings. It looks like a really fancy NES game. And look, you're just a little guy. Aw, cute. And Risk of Rain has pretty simple gameplay. It's a side-scroller shooter with a roguelike structure where you play until you die and then have to start all the way back at the beginning. So what's it like to play Risk of Rain? You start by playing as the Commando, whose specialty is being a shooty guy, but you'll unlock a slew of other characters, like a sniper, a landmine tossing engineer, a robot janitor, a space cowboy, you know, regular space adventure people. Each character has their own set of 4 abilities which impact your playstyle as you deal with the legions of aliens that just crawl out of the ground to further ruin your day. I most enjoyed playing as the Commando with their raw killing power, and the Robo-Janitor who punches stuff and shoots drones at enemies to heal itself. I had almost no fun playing as the Space Cowboy with his wimpy dynamite, or the Enforcer with their defense-focused playstyle. But whomever you choose, your objective remains the same. Obliterate aliens to receive experience and money on your way to find the conveniently placed portal in each level. Once you activate that portal, you'll have to survive for 90 seconds while the game tries to destroy you with even more aliens and a big boss monster for good measure. Once the timer is up, you have to go back and kill any stragglers you left behind, so make sure you clean up as you go to cut down on backtracking. Then the portal will zoop you to a different randomly generated level to repeat the process. Risk of Rain is a very easy game to learn. Each character takes a bit of adjusting to as you learn how to best use their abilities, but this game is just about as accessible as any retro game you'd find on an old Nintendo console. Though when you're in a panic, it's easy to trigger the wrong ability. And you will be in a panic, because despite the ease of access, this is one of the most hectic games I've ever played. You are not allowed to take even a single moment to catch your breath because monsters just keep showing up. And the longer you sit in one spot, the harder the mob you'll be forced to deal with. Another reason not to lollygag is that the biggest enemy of all, bigger than the bosses you'll face in each level, is time itself. On the right side of the screen is a bar that fills up over time, and the higher it goes, the harder the game gets. This forces you to constantly make judgment calls regarding whether or not to stay in a level and grind experience and find upgrades, because the cost to that is more vicious enemies as the difficulty increases. So, that all sounds fine, but the thing that really makes the game fun is the absurd number of power-ups and abilities that get showered upon you. The premise of the game is that you're constantly picking up crazy items that your ship was transporting, and Risk of Rain is not at all stingy with the goods. The game just keeps giving you stuff, like a dad that only sees you on weekends, a giant saw that's also a boomerang? Sure. A whole posse of attack drones? Great. A clock that stops time, like in the 2002 action sci-fi film Clock Stoppers? Yes, please. Risk of Rain stacks power-ups on top of power-ups until a large portion of your screen is filled with images of the artifacts you've recovered on your journey to becoming an unstoppable murder god. Generally, the game is fairly well balanced, as the difficulty keeps pace with your ever-increasing destructive power. But even if the balance does get broken on a playthrough, hoarding items of untold destructive power is still a winning formula. A good alternate title would have been Sweet Loot, the game. especially since you don't get to see the rain you're at risk of until the final level. There are a couple issues I had with Risk of Rain. I'm cool with the simplistic art style, but with the constant hordes of enemies, the screen frequently gets very busy and it can be hard to see what's going on, especially anytime you're trying to do pretty much anything. This necessitated straight up button mashing as a strategy a little too frequently, and playing the game on co-op is riddled with challenges. Local co-op is the most effective, but you can't keep track of your power-ups when 2 players share a screen. If you want to play with strangers online, good luck. I never once successfully got an online game going with randos. Even playing online with someone you know can get janky, like when my buddy and I were loaded into completely different levels but still appeared on each other's screens. It was odd watching him fight an endless horde of invisible assailants. All in all, Risk of Rain is an inexpensive game that's easy to pick up and play in short bursts. It has a great soundtrack and plenty of characters and items to unlock which will keep you coming back. Something I don't understand, though, is why it takes money to open the boxes from your ship, and why the aliens all seem to be carrying around the necessary currency to open those boxes. What does a magma worm spend money on? It's time to answer the question, would I play this game if I were not destined to do so? For Risk of Rain, the answer is yes. I enjoyed Risk of Rain, but it has a pretty balanced list of pros and cons. It's a very straightforward and accessible game mechanically, which makes it an attractive option when you have a free hour to game. The game's heavy emphasis on tossing abilities and power-ups at you constantly is always rewarding and enjoyable. While the art is fine to look at, it's often visually chaotic and hard to see what you're doing. And man, I wish the co-op worked better and that I could find people to play with online. That's a wrap on year 1 of Random Game Reviews. If you want a chance to suggest games on these special Patreon episodes, just head to patreon.com/randomgamereviews and subscribe at the 2nd or 3rd tier. Speaking of which, I want to thank my Patreon supporter Phil Metal Jacket for suggesting this game. Not only is Phil a supporter, but he's also one of my very best friends. And he's a streamer, so check him out at twitch.tv/Phil_metal_jacket. I'll toss the link in the video description. Tell Phil that I send my regards, and I'll see you next time on Random Game Reviews. It is the 1-year anniversary of Random Game Reviews, and I'm pumped about it. Thanks so much to all of my Patreon supporters, and to everyone who has supported the channel this last year by watching. It truly means a lot, and there's a lot more to come. So tell your friends, and I'll see you all for another year of foolishness.